Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the European heatwave we're seeing. We're going to go through some of the data that we are seeing from this. We're going to see why this is occurring and is there any possibility of it coming towards the UK. Now we'll start over on Weather Central, have a look at the raw upper air temperatures, the best indicator of the sort of air mass we are seeing. And you can see clearly across southern Europe we're seeing a very hot air mass. The air mass that normally would sit across North Africa, extending up into the Mediterranean, but not quite this hot. The 20-degree isotherm, yes, but not the 25-degree and not even the 30-degree, which is being observed in some areas, especially towards Italy and parts of Spain. Now the question is how abnormal is this temperatures? Now you can see from Weather Central, it's around 10 degrees above average widely, and just about peaking maybe 12 degrees above average in many spots. But there is always in our climate, whenever we do see hot conditions, we normally always see cold conditions somewhere else, and that is no different than now. You can see for much of southern Europe it's incredibly hot, but if we look further northwards and westwards, huge swathes of blues, the same further eastwards as well. So the idea that the world is sweltering is incorrect. The heat is just being domed in one area at the moment, and normally what happens at this time of year is, yes, it is hot across southern Europe. It is normally into the 30s quite widely, but this heat gets spread further northwards, spread westwards, and further eastwards, and essentially sort of spreads out, and means that if we have a look at the upper temperatures again, this is not dark red and orange, it's more towards average, and of course these areas are not blue, they're more towards average as well. Again, it doesn't directly always work out like that because we always are oscillating in terms of above average, below average. It's never just sat at average, but that's generally what happens. This heat advects somewhere else, spreads out, and we do see more of an equilibrium. The UK is normally slightly warmer, southern Europe is normally slightly cooler, but instead we have is it very polarised. Very cool across northwest Europe, parts of eastern regions, but very hot across southern regions. Now the reason for this is the jet stream, of course. You can see the jet stream here. Again, we can look at it at different levels of the atmosphere. It's probably more pronounced here at the 200 HPA level, so much higher in the atmosphere. Normally, it exits out of northeast Canada this time of year, shoots towards Iceland, up towards Scandinavia. But instead, it's taking a big dip into the Atlantic, up towards Spain, and then through across northern parts of Europe. And essentially what this means is for the UK, we're on the cold side of the jet, northerly or northwesterly flow. The areas to the south of the jet, the heat is just getting held. When the jet streams further northwards, this heat is allowed to expand northwards, spread out, and sort of share the heat to more regions, essentially reducing the intensities across southern Europe and North Africa. So that's essentially the reason why this is happening. It's not the fact that things are just exponentially hot. The reason for this is the heat that is generated across southern Europe and North Africa is not having an opportunity to spread out like it normally does, and just is sitting there accumulating very, very quickly. Now, will this heat be coming to the UK? The simple answer is no. The reason for that is the jet stream is not likely to be budging anytime soon. We can continue to see it pushing out of northeast Canada and diving further southwards. When this changes and heads northwards, then the warmth will return. But as we do see on our daily videos, we're not likely to be much above average for the foreseeable future, so it is likely to remain very hot across southern Europe. As we continue beyond this, we still see this kink in the jet stream, continually keeping that heat stuck there, and all the way to the extended range, perhaps brief signs of the jet stream maybe just shifting more towards Iceland, but still dipping. And if we have a look at the upper air temperatures, you can see this well reflected, a cool pocket in the jet, but very hot air just sucked to the south. Again, the upper air temperatures do this well, a cool pocket here towards into parts of Spain, heat trapped further southwards. Again, if we saw the jet stream flatten a bit more, then this heat would advect further northwards. Unfortunately, that is not what is happening and is not what is likely to happen for the foreseeable future. So yeah, not looking good. And then, for example, if we go back and have a look at what was happening in June earlier this year, if you have a look, we can't unfortunately have a look at the upper level winds, but you can see jet stream is much further northwards, or at least towards the UK it's much further northwards. And essentially what this means is all the heat that is generated across southern Europe is spread out. Look at the amount of times we see the 15-degree isotherm head towards the UK, or even large areas of 10-degree isotherm. That's all fueled by all this intense heat across southern Europe spreading out. And you can already see in these regions, yes, it's June, so it is slightly cooler than July, but already these regions are nowhere near as hot as they are currently. And it's all due to the fact that the jet stream here is much further northwards, meaning that the air is allowed to spread out across large swathes of Europe. We can see most of Europe is under the 10-degree isotherm, climbing slightly higher than that. It's all because that heat that's generated over the Med and towards North Africa is allowed to spread out. And unfortunately, that means this pattern with the jet stream stuck where it is at the moment means that we are unlikely to see much of this heat. If we did see this heat move towards the UK, if it didn't happen suddenly, and if it happened over a week or so, then most likely it would just increase our temperatures slowly. But if we did see a sudden southerly flow, which would be unlikely in this sort of pattern, but is possible, then we could see a spike of heat. But at this stage, no signs of that. So yes, it is very hot across southern Europe, but the reasons behind it is nothing too unusual. It's just unusual because it's lasting this long, but it's just a bit of a stuck, blocked pattern we are in at the moment. But all that heat generated across southern Europe and North Africa isn't allowed to spread out to other regions, basically starving those other regions of some summer warmth, like the UK, but it is keeping parts of southern Europe in the furnace for the time being. So we'll have to see what happens, but hopefully that has answered why the UK is cool and southern Europe is so hot, simply because the jet stream is dividing us, keeping hot air to the south, keeping cold air to the north, and unfortunately we are just to the north, stuck in all the cold low pressure systems, keeping us very unsettled and very cool, and keeping southern Europe very hot. We can see this even better by going over WX charts, which has a better view of Europe here, and again, very hot dome of heat, cold northern, western, northern and eastern sides of this dome, keeping it very cool. And again, if we have a look at the 10-meter winds, you can see very light winds in these regions. Again, just a cell of high pressure just stuck here. And if we finish by just having a look at the ensembles as well, you can see the latest GFS ensembles have those upper air temperatures around the 5 to 10 degree point above average for the next week to 10 days, dipping around the 26th to 28th, perhaps indicating that the jet stream is shifting. Maybe good signs for the UK, turning things around slightly. But at this stage, it is too far in the future to say for certain. Perhaps that heat is escaping further northwards and eastwards, not directly to the UK. So we'll have to see what happens, but for the time being, Italy and much of southern Europe look like it's going to stay in the furnace, stay with those very hot upper air temperatures and 2 meter temperatures as well, around that 40 degree mark in many regions, maybe even pushing slightly higher than that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope this has explained this European heatwave a little bit better, as I have seen a lot of headlines that are peddling, let's just say, some non-truths about saying that this is just some sort of catastrophe. No, this is an unusual pattern, but it's not something that is unprecedented. We are simply seeing the jet stream stay pretty stationary, seeing a bit of a blocking pattern happening during the hottest part of the summer, essentially keeping all that heat trapped across a small region, meaning these areas have locally very high temperatures, with much of northern Europe, much of northeastern and generally eastern Europe, and much of northwestern Europe well below average, and much of the Atlantic well below average as well. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Fingers crossed some of this heat eventually comes towards the UK. I know plenty of people will want something a bit warmer than we have now. But again, we'll have to see in the course of the next few weeks.